righty, well, why don't we go ahead and call our meeting to order and welcome everyone to this virtual meeting of the Royal Oak Civic Foundation on November 11 at 3 o'clock p.m. or 3-ish p.m., 3:10. Why don't we do roll call that we'll do by audio to make sure we're all here. And I'm going to go right to left across my screen. Peter Provenzano, are you here?
Here.
All right, Alex Fike, are you here?
Here.
Charlene Douglas, are you here?
Here.
All right, and I'm here as well. So the four directors are here for the meeting. I heard that we did not have anyone for public comment. Is that correct, Julie?
That's correct.
Okay, so we'll keep moving beyond public comment. And there isn't anyone waiting for remote access. So we can look at the minutes that Julie sent out from our last meeting. Alex, thank you for taking those minutes as well. Are there any additions or corrections to those or clarifications from those minutes? And Julie, thank you for screen sharing it too. That's helpful.
Yes, no problem. So I have a few things. Starting with number 7. Let's see, I think that needs to be expanded a bit because what I've got in my notes here is currently the finance department requires that all invoices be signed by chair and treasurer and then submitted to them with draft minutes to qualify for the payments. Perhaps at some point we can set up something that requires a little bit less, something that's a little less onerous. Once we get our internal financial policy approved, and I can talk with the finance department about that. So we mentioned those things at the last meeting.
Okay. Do we want to update this to reflect that then?
Yes, articulate what you want the minutes to say.
Okay, so I have it written down. I can send it to you.
Okay.
Is that all right, Shar?
Now or later?
Sorry, I may have been more brief than was helpful.
Yeah, do you want it right now?
I also noted to we should have added Mark Liss since he joined a little later on. Otherwise, we wouldn't have an item 9. So we should reflect that his presence was noted.
Yeah, Julie, just send, as long as, I mean, you guys are going to approve the changes to these minutes, as long as you know what they mean, then it's up to you to vote for them.
All right, so I'll send this to you after we finish this, okay?
Okay.
So the next one was number 9. Julie reports that she and City Manager Paul Brake also have a call with Kitch on November 2nd to discuss next steps. That was part of last month or our last meeting's conversation. And then the kickoff event number 10.
Hold on here. I guess I should hang on. Let me open this file on my computer because I can read it better there.
Okay, and don't forget, I'm going to send you all of these things because I have them as comments.
Oh, all right. Okay, fine.
Okay. I thought that would be easier. And then for the kickoff event, where it says we have the ability to receive money, that is not the case. It had not been resolved at the time that the PayPal Giving Fund was requiring that a checking account in our name was the only place they could send final donation checks. So at the time of this past meeting, that was not the case. Okay. And then at the end, I would suggest that it says something like minutes submitted by Alex Fike, since he was our fill-in secretary, fill-in minutes taker, I mean.
Okay, so with those 4 clarifications and updates that you'll be sending to Shar afterwards, and does everyone understand them? Is there a motion to approve these minutes with those corrections?
Could I just make a comment? Those are all accurate.
Well, I think I, even as a non-attendee, I can vote on minutes, but I probably shouldn't be making the motion.
Okay, I can make a motion.
All right. Is there a second?
I can second that.
Alrighty. Alrighty. I don't think there's any discussion. We've walked it through. We'll do a roll call vote of voting on it. So Peter,
Aye.
Alex,
Aye.
and Shar.
Aye.
And I as well. So the minutes will stand as corrected, noting that we are sending the exact writing to Shar after today's meeting. Next is our financials. Julie, if you can pop that up on the screen. If not, we can all review the email that you had sent.
I got it. Look at that.
Perfect. We are getting good at this. This is awesome.
Yeah, I know.
So quick review by the group, and then we will file these following the committee review.
Okay, and so the note I have about October's financials here is that they are not changed at all from the September financials that you were given. So what that means is the interest earned in the time period has not been entered yet.
Okay.
Okay. And again, as usual, we have 2 pages, one for the 295 account, and then, of course, one in the 700s where the Robertson Brothers donation continues to sit.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. If there are no other clarifications or questions about what we're reviewing, we can file those as submitted. And we'll move on in our agenda to item number 6, adopting today's meeting agenda. So this is the agenda that we proposed at the end of last time's meeting. Are there any updates to it based on any current business or any questions?
I'll move approval of the agenda.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. We'll do a roll call vote for those for approval. Starting at the top, Peter Robinson.
Aye.
Alex Pike.
Aye.
Charlene Douglas.
Aye.
And I'm at the bottom. I'm a yes as well. All right. And payables. We had our first opportunity to pay some things using our send it out, sign it, send it back. I may have been a little delinquent in getting it on time. I hope I didn't delay you too much, Julie. But how did that work? Did it?
Yeah, I think it worked.
Did you make the deadline for yesterday? Did I send them in time, or will you hit the deadline?
I think we did. The payables staff called and asked me a question about it, so I think we got it in.
Okay, great. So
Yeah.
does that process seem to work okay? Everyone okay with it?
Yeah, it worked out fine.
Yeah, it might be easier if only one person has to do it. And certainly when we are back together, we won't have the a necessity of having to scan and email. So we can just
Sure.
sign in person.
Yep, it is what it is for now. So as long as it worked for everybody, it wasn't too clunky, we'll keep going.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, next up will be the next section of our agenda, Director's Report. Julie?
Okay, so here's the director's report. So we met only 2 weeks ago, so this is a little bit shorter than usual. One of the big items is that I heard from Judy Davids, good news that the Beaumont Health Foundation awarded $10,000 to the city to help with the centennial celebration next year. And we were asked to be the pass-through organization. And so I sent out an email to you all just to give you that heads up. And everybody agreed that that was basically what we're here for. So I moved forward and told Judy she's all set to go. And with Tom's help, we worked through the application and documents that needed to be sent over. And it sounds like the last piece is for me to get a W-9 in our name sent over, and I'll take care of that.
Great. And the last thing will be an invoice for the $10,000 as well too, and that we'll get that in the system for next year. Actually, I think no, we're paying it out of this year's budget. And for clarity as well, it's a gift from or sponsorship from Beaumont Health, the corporation. The foundation's funds are we raise funds exclusively for internal programs at Beaumont. So if you see any of the recognition of this in public, it should always be our Beaumont logo and Beaumont Health in reference.
And just Beaumont Health?
Just Beaumont Health.
great. Thanks for that
Sure.
clarification.
And this was helpful for me to kind of walk through this and recuse myself from the decision-making pieces of it on both sides. As I knew this challenge would come forward, and with that connection, I was able to work with the committee on one side to have committee members advocate at their own discretion, realizing how important this sponsorship was because of Beaumont's history in Royal Oak, and they were very excited as a committee to support this and the Royal Oak Hospital. So.
Great, great, thank you. Let's see. So back to the GoFundMe page. 2 weeks ago, I made notice that we had trouble with the financing piece. After more emails, they decided that no, we're all set. That yes, indeed, they can send checks to the city of Royal Oak because the city of Royal Oak already has a PayPal account, and they will just allow it to happen. So I sent 2 or 3 clarifying emails just to make sure that I understood what they were saying and they understood how we exist, and they say we're all set. So I think at this point we're ready with the GoFundMe, and now just waiting on the video finalization and then pushing that video out. So a quick status for the video. I think we are still at the same position we were 2 weeks ago. The Salvation Army has not been filmed yet, but all others have been. And I reached out to Richard a couple times and was able to talk or email with him today and let him know that if he was having trouble getting in touch with the Salvation Army, I could help, or Shar could probably help too. So that's where we are. And I think that's it. I wonder if you have any questions.
So how many conflict of interest disclosure forms are we waiting for? Not from whom, but how many?
Only one, and it's in the mail.
Okay, gotcha.
The check's in the mail.
Excellent.
Yep. So we're doing well on that.
Okay, great. Any questions for Julie about the updates she has from our from the last this work in our last report, which was really only a couple weeks ago, but a lot has happened in just a short time frame for you.
Work. But thanks, Tom, for the assistance with the donation.
Glad to help. You bet. Actually, I didn't help. I did. I had to sit out of my hands. So
The connection.
yeah.
So I don't know where if this fits here, but I suspect it does. I've drafted a news release about the foundation's creation and sent that draft to Julie. And we will probably have Judy Davids ultimately issue that, timed around the launch of the video.
Sounds great. Is there any promotion we want to do of this $10,000 donation as well too? Is there a tag in?
Yes, absolutely. I'll add it.
Excellent.
Or do you think adding it to that press release would confuse or dilute the fundraiser?
You know, the Beaumont announcement can wait. The centennial isn't until next year. You're, in fact, and we should ask this, your media relations department may have wishes around this as well, right, Tom?
They're starting to work with Judy Davids, both on the content planning, because there are 4 installments, I understand, that tell the story in the magazines across the year. So timing doesn't matter. And anything we can actually do, maybe we start thinking about how we're planning some of our public promotions too, so that we're always staying kind of in front of the media. You know, do we have a message every other month that we can make sure is pushed out there?
Yeah, so let's, on second thought, let's hold off on this. Coordinate between me and Judy and the Beaumont Media Relations Department to get, you know, the most bang for our buck here.
Great.
Yep. And I like the idea of, you know, having some kind of marketing piece every month or so. And in that string of thinking, the Robertson brothers are giving us a second donation. that we didn't want to post, during this first one for the same reason of not confusing things, with the fundraiser. But I think that the next donation is $8,000 because they've continued to sell houses. And again, for each of those houses, they share a portion, not a portion, they share a dollar amount with us for each unit sold. So right now we have three things in order, right, to post in marketing. A second Robertson Brothers donation, a larger Beaumont donation, and then this kickoff fundraiser that we're working on.
I think it's great. I love the idea of a monthly shout out where we're making sure that we're staying in front of people through the different vehicles that we're doing. And should we also then think, and we can put this as maybe a new agenda item for our next meeting, where we want to award a portion of the funds from Robertson Brothers that's coming in, the 8,000. Do we make one of our media messages a call out to Royal Oak civic groups? And are we ready to have folks start applying? I don't know the answer to that question yet, so I think we're not, but it would be a nice thing to be able to get up online pretty quickly.
Yeah, so I would just remind that in our parking lot, we have a bullet point called funding process for entities. And I think that was, the task that we were going to, let me open that one. So right here, the funding process, to kind of understand their needs and how we might interview or survey or, come up with our next kind of donation.
Right.
And I think it also relates to this bullet point right above it, the big picture visioning.
All right, so we'll come back to that. Maybe we'll move those into our December meeting to pull them out of the parking lot and get some action items on those pieces to be ready for a 2021 launch of that.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else for Julie? And again, thank you for your work, your quick work. This was a lot to do in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, next up, we've got Mark Liss. Hi, Mark.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ironically, at the last meeting, I received an update from Kitch during the meeting, an email, and Kitch has been able to contact Rima and Robson, and they are having, according to Kitch, a productive conversation. It's still ongoing. I believe that they have been in contact also with, Kitch has been in contact with Julie. I received another update today that they are still working on it. A little frustrating, I understand, but apparently Kitch believes they're having a good reception to the discussion about the 701 funds. I asked for perhaps a estimated time frame, but did not get one because they don't really know when they're going to get this finished. They do say that they will update us soon on the progress. One other issue I wanted to bring up as we're reviewing some of the documents in City Hall about the city logo, I think it would be a good idea to add to the agenda next meeting to discuss an agreement and a release of rights for with the student who designed your logo, and so that there are no potential issues about the use of that artwork.
All right, we'll address that and add it to our next meeting agenda at your direction. Good idea.
Yes, Mark, are you able to come up with a document?
Yes, we're going to just use the templates that we've used before, and also suggest at that meeting that we discussed, or I'm recommending right now, that the foundation apply for a trademark status, which the city logo does have, and we're able to protect it that way. We've only had a couple of instances where somebody was trying, well, probably didn't know they were infringing on our logo, and we were able to take down their efforts to sell our logo on t-shirts and stuff like that.
Mark, is this something we need to resolve before we have our virtual event launch? Because we are using it and we talk specifically about, we have a new logo. So just in case there'd be any issues, should we make sure we have all of that in order that the student has signed off first before we publicly promote?
No, I think you can go ahead with it. I mean, the student understood the what they were competing for. It's just dotting the i's, crossing the t's.
Okay. All right. Mark, anything else? Any questions from the group as well? And Julie, anything else outstanding that's been kind of on our checklist with Mark as well?
I've got just one thing. My internet connection is unstable, so you may not be able to hear me very well.
Okay, you sound good so far.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's it. Or, you know, the main piece that we've been waiting on is the 701 and 295, and that is in process with Kitch. So I appreciate Mark thinking about this logo issue, because it's not something that came to my mind. So thanks again, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Alrighty, let's move into unfinished business then. And our first topic is internal financial controls policy, final draft vote. And here it is on the screen. And at today's meeting, we will be looking for a motion, second, and approval of this.
Yes, so I have a quick question, please. And that is, on the third page. Alex, can you hear me?
Yeah, you can make me co-host. I can open up my camera now.
Okay, let's see how to do that. Okay, does that work for you?
Yep.
All right, so I have a couple questions. I wonder on page 2, should it be set up that way where there is only the word distribution, administration, and board of trustees on it?
Yeah, I think it just laid out from the previous page, didn't it? Yeah, so it's just a continuance of the sections. Or you're saying, sorry, this being distributed to the administration and board of trustees. Yeah, I mean, we can remove that if we want. It doesn't really matter to me. I think it was overly formal language from Kitch.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we need to remove it. I just didn't know if it needed to sit on page 2 all by itself, or was it just a formatting, you know, just the way
I think it's a formatting from the changes we made previously. The resolution should stay on its own page, though.
All right, sounds good. And then my next question is about the resolution. In 1, 2, 3, 4, the paragraph 4. Sorry, I got it. So here where it says approval, I wonder if we could make that just a little more clear and say a written approval, so that there's always some kind of a backup document.
I'd be fine with that clarification.
Okay, that's all that I have.
I'm sorry, Julie, was that in the last item, paragraph 4, second to the last line? Written approval is provided by both chair and trustee.
Yeah, 1, 2, so it's the 4th paragraph, last sentence. In urgent situations, if, and then insert written approval.
Got it.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you. Thanks for working on this, Alex.
Yeah, of course. Sorry, everyone. My computer. Sorry. Well, sorry, you're just seeing me now.
Any other updates or questions or clarifications on this policy before we entertain a motion to adopt it? If not, I'll invite a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I think we've had our discussion on this in general, so we'll call the question and do a roll call vote to approve this motion. Starting at the top, Peter,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Shar,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. All right,
All right.
good work. Alex, again, thank you as well. This is good formative documents that as we start from the ground up, we need all these different connected pieces. All right, next up on the agenda, unfinished business is our vision statement development. So Julie provided some, here we go. We finished our mission piece of it.
Right. And in the email, I made a note of these core values drafts, which are a combination of multiple pieces that we've had over the course of time, some of Char's, some that we found online from different community foundations in other cities. And so I wonder if you had time to look through those and see if indeed that, covers the values that we want to put out as our core values, or are there any changes? Did we miss anything? And the reason I ask about this is it helps with the bigger picture vision of the organization, and you need to have that vision in place before you pick a statement. And so this is in an effort to help us move through those steps.
So a concept that that is almost here is one that I'm keen about, and that is database decision making. And we almost say that under the strategy bullet point when we say objective decisions. Can we add objective database decisions?
That would be fine with me.
I like it. Data-based, data-driven, any of those.
Data-driven, that has a nice sound to it, yeah.
Data-driven.
DDD.
I like
Triple
it.
D.
Great.
I'd like to request under respect and equity that we also include the word in the second sentence, we respect the unique attributes of everyone and treat each other with sensitivity, transparency, and respect.
Is everybody good with that?
Sure.
I feel like at some point we talked about transparency as one of the top line items. So I'm just glad that I think it's great to include it somewhere. I know that that's a little bit more around the operation, the behavior, but just calling that out.
Does it belong under integrity or respect and equity though, the more I think about it?
Maybe integrity.
I think so too. I was going there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's pull out of respect and equity and pop it into integrity, maybe it.
And you might want to say, we operate transparently with the highest level of professional and ethical, et cetera, et cetera.
I like that. Okay. Oops, crayons. Okay. Yeah, that sounds good.
So one of the things that I'm thinking about is equity, and then the language thereafter. I think about the fact that equity is an action. It's an active verb. And so I'm wondering if there's anything that we need to put in there. Operating justly to all without discrimination. That's obviously the front-facing component. But then I'm also wondering if there's something about, reducing barriers to access or something like that. Like for me, that's what equity is, but I don't want to go too far down that road. I'm just wondering if there's a rephrasing of that first sentence that somehow gets to that, or if I'm missing the mark, which you can counter me on.
Would you consider adding it in the second sentence then? We seek to remove barriers to TBD and celebrate the unique attributes of everyone.
Mariana Karras.
Yeah, something like that would make sense.
Okay, do you want to say that again, Tom? I'll type it and we'll see how it looks.
We seek to remove barriers to, and I think we just need to have that qualified. What are we removing the barriers to?
I mean, we could also just say without discrimination and ensure access or something like that. Like, I don't know if that, like from the precinct sentence, and then we're not adding a whole other sentence in. Sorry to agree and then suggest a counter.
No, that's what we're doing here. So how would we do it? We operate justly to all without discrimination and removing barriers. Does that get to what you're trying to say?
Yeah, something like that. Tom, does that help resolve?
I think so, yeah.
And ensuring equitable access or something like that. Sorry, I've been noodling on it since you sent it, but I've not had the right solution. So if anyone has anything better, please.
Okay. How about you, Shar? You're one of our best wordsmithers here. So what do you think about that sentence?
The actual word is smithy, but
Oh.
I'm reading this on my laptop and squinting at it,
Okay. Can I open like that? Does that help?
Oh,
There you go.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's better.
So we are right here.
At least I'm not on video screen, so you can't see me with my nose pressed to the screen. I would say we operate justly to all without discrimination to ensure equitable access. And I would say, I would take justly out and go, we operate, or I'm sorry, take to all out. So the sentence would read, we operate justly without discrimination to ensure equitable access to all.
Okay.
And put a comma after discrimination.
All right. Alex, what do you think?
Just that second sentence there, we celebrate the unique attributes of everyone. That word everyone's, maybe I'd say we celebrate the unique attributes of individuals and treat each other with sensitivity and respect.
Yep, I like it.
These are rules to live by. Anything else on this section? I like it. So do we need to move down into vision statements beyond our core values now, incorporating the questions that Julie, you've included on this how to get started document?
Right. So one of the other requests was for you to think about those two questions before we met. And now it says to close your eyes and consider, after you're thinking about your answers to those, what the community would look like if those needs were met or problems were solved. So if we were completely successful, what would that look like? And then from there, that is meant to help us declare the desired future state, which is our vision statement.
So ultimately, we are looking for, and it's actually back in our prior section, we are looking to create or foster the words positive changes in our community. Do we pull out those words? And I guess maybe we go back to, do we all have the same vision of this? You know, are we about creating a better Royal Oak, and what does that mean? And how do we share in that vision? Is that about helping with social service elements? Is that about resourcing arts and culture groups? We all come from a different perspective. So how do we make something that's general that impacts all of our different views of what this organization should do is my opening question.
So I wonder, should we just do a quick brainstorming session? Everybody can pitch in what they think the needs are that we need to meet, and then we can do the same for the problems we want to solve, and then, you know, be able to look at some concrete words or terms on the screen.
Can I, oh, I'm live. Okay. So can I throw out something that I came up with? Just, you know, you're either going to love it or you're going to hate it, but I liked it. Julie, can I share the screen, or you?
Yeah, I think you can. Let me stop share. Okay, see if you can share.
Share screen. I mean, to me, rather than going through that litany of what we do, meeting the needs of the community, I revolved around talking about the people and sort of, if there are outcomes we want, to me, this is the outcome that we want.
I like it.
Go ahead, feel free to take shots. No pride, well, only a little pride in authorship here.
A little bit. I like it. I wonder if when I read that, it feels more like the mission, the vision of the city.
I thought that too, but if we say it, then we own it.
So are we making Royal Oak the place, or are we providing the resources that make Royal Oak that? Are we to a
Maybe that's the key.
So I like it from the perspective of the work we can do can be intentional broad. And I know one of the things is that we looked earlier on to the city commission for a little bit more direction on what would be helpful. But I'm thinking about some of the things that we can do. And a lot of that is a lot of different things. I look at like the receipt and disbursement of the Beaumont Health support the centennial celebration. You know what I mean? Like, so if we focus in on, we make things up, but childhood reading level or something like that, like that would be out, then it would be out of scope to accept like that gift for the Beaumont Health, or yeah, so or the food access with the firefighters union. So I'm just thinking out loud. I like it because it's intentionally broad, and it also, you can see a lot of different other opportunities in it. What if we helped with energy assistance, or, you know what I mean? I'm just thinking about, like, we can be a little bit more flexible to the need. And you know, energy assistance is an easy example. Anyone can live here, you know, because we are able to support that or something. No, I'm not suggesting that we set up an energy assistance plan, but it's my rambling thoughts in reacting to it.
I was kind of thinking that our statement would have something around philanthropy. So if I were to take this, I might say encouraging philanthropy to make Royal Oak the place where everyone wants to live. You know, because really our task is to find money to meet needs, right? And I think it's okay to say that.
I agree. Do we want to use the direct fundraising terminology, philanthropy? Do we want something that's softer, like discovering resources? Any preference? I'm definitely more fine with being direct about, we're a fundraising group. It should say it in everything we do.
All right, I'll take this off the table. No, I mean, no judgment. How do I unshare?
Well, I think it's a really great start. So in my mind, so I think this is good. There's a part of me that says, I think that's kind of where I'm coming from, is it needs to have a little bit more of a philanthropy angle, less of a city function angle. But where I'm torn is, so the recent Beaumont donation, that was really for the city's centennial. That makes Royal Oak a place where people want to live. So that fits. There's something about the word thrive that I just keep coming back to, like make Royal Oak the place where everyone can thrive. It feels a little more philanthropic, but then I'm thinking about the Beaumont contribution, and does that really help people thrive? So I'm a little stuck.
Because if you look at the examples from other, these global organizations, I mean, the Human Rights Campaign, it says equality for everyone. I mean, that's what is the great big wide audacious goal? And they don't say how they're going to do it. So to me, philanthropy is how we do it, but making Royal Oak a great place is the outcome that we want. Making people's lives better.
What do you mean by "and anyone can"?
It goes right to the point that we just discussed about equity. It means people can age in place. It means we are welcoming to people of all walks of life, and that we provide the facilities and services that anyone can access.
And statistically, Shar, don't we know that is it 25% or 30% of Royal Oak lives below the poverty line?
I don't know. I thought you were going to say it was age 65 plus, but I don't know about the poverty figure.
I'm trying to remember where that came up, that it was kind of a surprising amount of amount of people in Royal Oak that was kind of, it wasn't seen, whether it was a homelessness element or it was a financial challenge element. And this isn't new data. It was something that we've talked about in the last year.
I'll pull it up in a second.
It was Alice, right?
Yep.
Alex? Okay.
The well, and so I'll continue pulling that up, but that's a little what I was thinking about the anyone can component. It gets a little bit to what we are just talking about with equity as well. So that's kind of it seems parlayed right into it. No, that was not staged. That's but and I like that it's broad as a visioning statement. I know I keep coming back to that. I just like flexibility with what we're able to do. And I think about something like the Beaumont Health Gift supporting the centennial celebration. I mean, how does art fit in, right? Like more broadly, like that's creating a great, it's placemaking. It's you know what I mean? So it's for me that makes sense. And I'll give the Alice answer here in a second.
You know, about the Beaumont donation, it certainly is a benefit for the city of Royal Oak and the centennial celebration, but it is a pass-through grant. So it is not, I think I'm thinking about this correctly. It's a pass-through grant, so it doesn't come to us where we make decisions about which entities with needs take on that funding. Does that make sense, Tom?
That's
And
correct.
so in some ways, you know, that is one of our tasks, is to help with pass-through funding to benefit the city. But it feels to me a little bit different than us having funding to make decisions about.
So just to give that data point real quick, status not as current, but it's 2017. So poverty is 7% in Royal Oak City. But those that would fit this Alice model, which is asset limited, income constrained, and employed. So those that are, you know, one situation occurring, medical bill, car breaking down, from falling into poverty would be 28%. So nearly 30%. So nearly 30, well, 28%.
The more, you know, I think this room, we talk, I like this. I think it does hit the mark. I mean, I can see, I like it.
So I'll take it off the table. We can leave it out there. How do I unshare?
I'd leave it there. I like it.
Well, but Julie may want to use the screen for other note taking.
Yeah, can she copy and paste or maybe type that in?
Or it'll be lurking there in the background.
Okay.
You know, hang on just a second. I will type it in here.
It is in the chat.
Oh yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay,
You tell
Shar.
my computer is now working. So.
Yay.
Okay, Shar, if you can unshare.
Yep.
So are we ready to move forward with this as a formal vision statement?
So, yeah, you know what? I have another sheet. So that second sheet I sent through email to you all. Can you see it now?
Looks that way, yeah.
Okay. So this was a sheet with a few examples from community foundations. So that first sheet I sent, I realized, wait a minute, those are, you know, large nonprofits, not necessarily associated with similar work as what we are doing. And so I'm not sure if you had time to look at this from your email. I can boost this up a little bit.
Yeah, I liked the Silicon Valley one. That one grabbed my attention.
But what's the name of the document, Julie?
It's Vision Statement Development 2.
There it is. I got it. Okay. Yeah, we saw these earlier, right?
Yeah, I sent it as part of the packet, but it came to me the next day, so we got another email.
See, to me, these sound like our mission statement. I mean, how do these differ from our mission statement?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought I knew how to answer that. So again, the vision statement is meant to be a one-sentence statement describing clear and inspirational long-term desired change. So what is the desired future state? So I guess part of this in Silicon Valley is the world a better place for all. But perhaps, you know, they're talking more about getting there rather than what it would be if they succeeded.
This is where I think I like Shar's, especially the wordplay at the end. Because these do feel more like mission statements to me than vision statements. Some of them, the Silicon Valley one I actually do like. I think that one's well done, but it's lofty, and that's how I've always defined a vision statement. It's lofty.
Yeah, I think,
Okay.
I do like Shar's. I really do. I think it
So one of the things I think about in Shar's is the last part in can. Our affordability, housing affordability is not, I mean, how do I say it? We don't have very many affordable houses for all kinds of people. You know, we haven't moved forward on affordable housing.
Should we?
Pardon me?
Should we?
I don't think we did. Did we?
No, I mean, if we're looking, this is about the future of Royal Oak. I mean, this is about our perfect city. I absolutely think we should have more affordable housing in Royal Oak, but this is the outcome that we want to seek.
And is that something that we think that we could affect change on? Because if so, that would be awesome.
Well, yeah, I mean, if there were programs or funds out there to, that could appropriately go through the foundation that were incentives for affordable housing development, or if this, if the city has a program, city commission has a program to do that, that would be something we would be involved with. Yeah, I agree. Julie's right. We're not affordable now, but that perfect city that we want would have that affordable housing. Or I like to say attainable housing.
So let's look at live in our future a little bit. What does that look like? Are we applying for grants that provide financial offsets or for folks for living expenses, rent, things like that?
we could that donations.
Mm-hmm.
So this, we haven't, we've been planning at a very lofty level as an organization, but at some point soon we need to kind of get down to the strategies and tasks level and decide what we're actually going to do. And to some extent that drives the vision that we're trying to define right now. So this could be a cart and horse thing.
But I do think that it's broad enough here that that's why I was just kind of thinking through the types of donations. And so what I like about the statement is it's twofold. It's philanthropic in the sense that anyone can, right, live here. But it's also, I'm not sure the word I'm looking for, but attractive in the sense that, there may be fundraising that we do that does not go towards from assisting people as much as functions that make the functions, make the services, make Royal Oak more appealing to residents. So I see us doing both. And this vision statement covers both. That's what I was kind of asking, like, what are the meaning? What is the meaning of the words? It's a little different. You know, there are certain foundations that are purely like philanthropic in nature, in the sense that they're providing a social benefit to assist people with paying their bills, making ends meet. We're interested in that, but we also have a unique opportunity to assist the city and its functions, its operations, like this donation from Beaumont. It's going towards a celebration, which makes people want to live in Royal Oak. It's not necessarily going to help people live in Royal Oak, but it's going to make people want to live in Royal Oak. And I see us doing both.
I might make a motion to approve as presented from Shar. Or do
I'll
we want to
second.
sit on it for,
Or,
you know,
yeah.
sit on it and come back to it 1 month from, like, at our next meeting?
Let's sleep on it.
Okay.
Why don't we put it on it to definitely review at the next meeting and vote. So yeah, definitely think about it for the next month. And I guess we want to think through what helps us to open up our promotion to make us well understood by anyone who understands, who sees what we're putting out. Also keeps our options really open to be helpful to the community, and also doesn't take us down any other specific paths as well too. That we want to make sure we are a broad service function for the city. So does this hit all of those targets?
Yeah, so we should all write it on a sticky note and post it on our wall or on our laptop.
Keep looking at it over and over. I think it's a really good start. But there's a lot about it I like too. So. All right, do we need to go through the rest of the document, or are we going to pen? Would the group prefer to kind of pen this entire conversation to our next meeting next week, next month? How about if we push it to next month?
But Julie was just saying something. You're not
Julia,
muted though.
Yeah, we can't hear you, Julie.
Can't hear you.
Huh.
I'll just go into tech mode. Click the caret next to the microphone and then make sure it didn't swap to something else.
Huh. It's interesting. Earlier, very early on, you were really soft. Like you were kind of you weren't real clear. I don't know if it's a microphone issue.
It's back.
I hear you a little bit.
Barely.
Yeah.
Barely.
I wonder if something else is like connected and we're actually just like, if you have like AirPods or something and we're actually hearing it from a distance. We'll give it a whack, but usually.
That's good tech service for sure. That always works.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Weird. Okay, I'm going to turn it down a little bit. Okay, how about that now? All set?
Perfect.
Oh yeah, real good.
All right. So we're gonna leave vision statement development in our unfinished business to next month. Sound good?
Yep.
It's good.
All right. Let's move on to our next agenda item. We have a little over 50 minutes left in today's meeting. Our honorarium for Ethan Martin, who was our OCC student who created our logo. So this came out of our meeting, I think, was it last time, just a few weeks ago, that we thought we should do something either for the university or for the student in particular for that would be helpful. So let's discuss.
So let me kind of jump in. I've given this a little bit of thought. I think it would be most appropriate to do something, if we had a choice between the two, to do something for the student, not necessarily for the college, I know we talked about a scholarship in the student's name, but it didn't, as I kind of walked that through in my mind, I thought, well, that doesn't seem right that, you know, he would do the work and give this, you know, money to another student. So, you know, I think if we do something, it should be for the student. It's possible, and I didn't have a chance to really find out where he's at in his academic journey. But I suppose we could always give him a scholarship, and we could work with the foundation and maybe grant him a scholarship if that was something that we wanted to do. Or, you know, we could purchase a gift certificate somewhere, you know, to help pay for books or, you know, something like that. So, but I guess in my mind, we should narrow it down and give something, if we're going to do something, give it to the student, not just the college.
I agree. And I will say that the payment supports what Mark discussed earlier about an agreement with him that gives us the rights to the logo. By paying him for it, we
Good point.
cement that legal relationship.
That'll help.
So should we consider direct payment that the student can use at their own discretion for their education, or whatever, no restrictions, and make it a personal stipend?
That's what I would support.
Okay.
I was just going to ask about taxable implications, whether if it's a payment for service, you know, that which,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, versus I don't
There's
know what the exact
thresholds
language
where,
is.
yeah, there's thresholds there where I don't know. I don't want to, you know, we get into like a 1099 situation and everything. It's a good point.
We're not going to give him, well, unless we give him more than $600, we don't have to worry about a 1099.
Right.
So I would suggest we do something below $599,
I-
unless it's a gift certificate.
Do you like that exact amount, $5.99? Doesn't have any implications at all. Like, we're trying to avoid something. Darn that transparency. We need to be honest. Does 500 seem appropriate as a gift or a payment rather for the student, or maybe as we consider it a prize? Again, I don't know, and that's 600 too. So does 500 seem appropriate?
I'm just going to ask Mark, do you have any input on?
Yeah.
I can just give you an idea that the official Royal Oak logo, including the font and all the different branding styles and branding rules, cost the city, I think it was about $23,000.
Sorry, I meant more along the lines of the gift. That's an astounding number. Like, should we be categorizing it as a gift or just a scholarship or a prize, or does it not matter at this amount?
What's
Not that
income?
you're a tax attorney.
I think it's income no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, basically the income from whatever source derived. I mean, it used to be that scholarships were tax exempt, but not anymore.
Oh, I didn't realize that had changed. Otherwise, gift certificates wouldn't be, correct?
Yes. I mean, technically the rule that the IRS, one of the first rules is that the IRS can tax income from whatever source derived.
Let me clarify, gift certificates are exempt from that? Is that what you're saying? Because
No,
they're not exempt from it.
no,
You didn't
income from any source.
Okay.
Unless it's specifically exempted.
If it's a foundation, I mean, so what if, you know, a nonprofit like this Royal Oak Civic Foundation gave money to the OCC Foundation that gave him a scholarship, you know, $500 scholarship to take classes. Does that, I just wonder if
That might have tax, yeah, that still might have tax implications. I mean, the rules about scholarship, taxes for scholarships, I mean, it's all complicated now. And
yeah.
the best answer is that it depends.
You know, and I could, if you'd like, I can, and I know we want to seek his permission to use this logo. But if you'd like, I can do a little homework and talk to Dan Genuine over at the OCC Foundation just to see if he has some perspective on this.
You probably
About,
better.
you know, it just to kind of, we want to do something that's not, we want something, I don't want him to be taxed on it. You know,
Yeah, I was gonna say we don't want to. We're not trying to avoid taxes. I just don't want it to create additional unnecessary burden.
what I'd hate to find out is he uses the money for classes, and had we, you know, gone through a different process, even though the end result's the same, it triggered some tax consequences for him, and that we could have avoided or something. You know?
Sometimes what you can do is, let's say you want the student to have $500 and whatever to use it whichever way they want, and then you calculate the potential tax hit on that in his tax bracket. Instead of giving him $500, you give him $600 to offset the tax consequences. But that just starts getting more and more complicated.
Well, you know, would the board like me to kind of do a little more investigations on my end with our foundation to see if Dan Genuine has some thoughts, or do we want to just give him a, you know, just to compensate him, a gift card or write a check, I suppose.
I think your foundation would have a great idea about the tax consequences of a, let's say, a scholarship.
Say that again, Mark.
I think that the OCC Foundation would have a much better idea of the tax consequences of a scholarship for a student.
Yeah, and one thing you said, Pete, is you don't know what his academic future is. That probably would be good to know also, because it might be right now he could use $500 straight up. You know, it may be of more value to him at this particular point in his life.
I can't imagine that he would complain that we gave him $500 and he had to pay taxes on it. Right.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Char.
We want to just expedite our decision and move to.
We really gave him $400, but we wanted him to have $400. We're giving him $500, so after tax, he's $400, right?
All right, I move we write a check to Ethan Martin for $500.
I'm okay with that.
All right, any discussion? Let's call the question. All in favor say aye. By roll call vote, I'll start at the top. Peter.
Aye.
Alex.
Aye.
Shar.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Little rough business. Just making the choice and
I think we're tired today.
off we go. Boom.
Okay, so a little bit of detail here about the check request. Char, the finance department needs draft minutes, so if that's in the minutes, that would be great. 500 check to Ethan Martin. And then I think we also in the minutes should say that we recognize that money will come out of the 700 fund, because the 295 at this point we can't spend that on anything that's not tied to the city functions, I guess. Okay.
Out of the, what is it, 70, what's the number?
I think it's, let me just make sure here. I think it's a 701, but I'll look at page 2. Yeah, it's the 701 fund.
Okay, got it.
So the thought is we can't spend any money out of the 200 funds unless it's for city functions?
Yeah, I don't know the exact language, but when that
That makes sense.
when the $100 donation from Meyer came in for the Nature Society, if we put it in our 295, we were not then permitted to take the $100 out of the 295 and give it to the 701 Nature Society.
All the more reason why I believe we're a 700 fund, but we'll wait.
Yeah, that's the thing that drove the wait a minute. You know, if we can't move this money around, then we need to make an adjustment there. So, okay, so $500 check to Ethan Martin from the 701. And then Tom and Pete, if you could just, write something. I mean,
You have like well, I'm sure you have to type something up for finance, right? Like a check request or a
well, you know what? There is a check request
voucher,
form that I have. Maybe I'll just do that. They said that
and I'll sign that.
they don't require that anymore because typically there's an invoice or something with the GL number typed. But okay, so I'll make 2 of these and send one to each of you. Or maybe I'll make one and send one to Pete, and then Pete, you can send it to Tom, and then Tom, you can get it back to me.
Okay.
Yeah, you could either do a check request form, or if you had a copy of like, well, maybe the check request form's fine, or a copy of the minutes, like that page, and we could both sign off on that. I don't, either way, that could be like the invoice. I don't know.
Oh, mhm.
It's up to it.
That would be
Whatever
easier.
whatever finance wants. We're going to sign something, whatever it is that they need us to sign, I guess is really.
Okay. All right, I'll figure it out. So Shar, if you can get those minutes to me, once you do, then I will figure out the next step. Sound good?
Okie dokie.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Next up, we're talking about our annual budgeting process.
You know, I'm sorry, to backtrack, if there's an agreement or something, maybe Mark would be able to chime in on this. If there's some sort of agreement that he's signing to allow us to use the logo, you may want to incorporate, you know, the $500 into that agreement, and maybe that's the invoice.
I'm sorry, were you talking with,
Yeah, I was kind of, I'm sorry, I was kind of backtracking a little bit, but on the Ethan Martin, the $500 payment, we don't have an invoice, but what I was thinking is maybe the agreement that you draft to allow us to use the logo that he created, if there's a remuneration there of $500 or something, I don't know how you want to structure that. Maybe that could serve as the invoice.
no, you could do that. I mean, it's
Something to think about.
just like the city purchased the services from the design group on 4th Street for the logo. They designed it, but we own it. And I think it was around 23,000.
Amazing.
Yes, but they invoiced us for that.
Yes, they did. And our agreement with them was that they would turn over all their rights.
Right.
So Mark, can we ask you to draft that sooner rather than later so we can take care of this item and get the payment to Ethan Martin?
It will be ready a week before the next meeting or so that you can review it. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. Next up on our agenda is to review our annual budgeting process. So parts of this discussion came out of our meeting from last time.
Okay, let's see here. Let me change the screen. Okay. Okay, so I took the suggestions from the last meeting and plugged some things in and added a few additional potential expenses for this current fiscal year, which you can see there. Some continuing education for staff and trustees.
Julie, we can't see your screen, just so you know.
Oh, really? Okay, thank you. Let me try this again. How's that?
Yep, there it is.
Okay.
And make it big.
Yeah. How's that?
Better.
Better, or do we need more? Better?
That's real good.
Okay.
I feel like I'm at the eye doctor.
Okay, so again, you know, these were some of the suggestions from our last meeting. I added a few things, namely the nonprofit continuing education, software board management software, and perhaps the donor management. And then I remembered that we would need to count the kickoff fundraising event donation, that $7,500 as an expense. So this is what I have for the 2021 draft budget so far. Any thoughts? Am I missing anything?
Oh, I wasn't here, so if you guys just talked about this and discarded the idea, let me know. But don't we want to be, instead of, to be creating some categories now for expenses, rather than specific items? I mean, that is, so it seems like you want a category for legal and administrative fees that would cover the annual report, the, you know, Michigan corporation, I mean, you know, legal and administrative fees, insurance, fundraising expense, banking fees, marketing, for example, the, you know, the website URLs would come, well, I would label as marketing, donor recognition, staff development, board development, and then of course, actual grants and donations. I mean, I would lean towards broad categories rather than specifics like fundraising envelopes.
Mhm.
Because did you get QuickBooks, Julie?
No.
But that is a possibility. I mean, you may wind up using some sort of software system to keep track of things, and that would be how you set up categories like this, income and expense categories.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that is, you know, a good point. And for this exercise, you know, this was just to get some brainstorming done to think about, you know, what are the actual expenses we may incur during 2021, since this is really our inaugural year. I would expect in the future, you know, we would break these down into categories and not be so specific about each item.
So, and why is the revenue only 8,000?
That's all we have so far. That's why.
But this is a budget.
Yep.
So we've got.
Yep. So in the forecast, I put an estimated. I didn't remember to do it here.
Well, it was the Robertson Brothers initial gift, was it 16,000, and that's where the 7,500 is going to come out of? I just want to make sure we're not predicting a deficit immediately.
Yeah, so the 16,000 came to us in fiscal year 1920.
Okay.
So it is sitting in those accounts, but it doesn't belong in this budget year. So, and then the other thing we need to keep track of is when we set up, it was our thinking that for the first 3 years of the Royal Oak Civic Foundation, we would not be going over $50,000 in income or in revenue. And that's something Kitch said that we should keep in mind here when we're setting up our budgeting and then also our fundraisers, because it changes some of the reporting that we need to do and might take us out of the, I think it had to do with the IRS easy form that we filled out.
That makes sense.
So maybe you all can help me think about this. In the fiscal year 2021, do we expect another fundraiser where we would be pulling in money, not just to pass, what does this go? Not just to pass through. Like, will we have time before June of next year to do another fundraiser or, you know, a call for donations or something like that?
So you just a minute ago, you said not a pass through. Much of our spending will be pass through spending. And that's kind of the way we work, right? So it does seem like you should be showing that in a budget, even knowing that, you know, money coming in equals money going out, because at some point we'll be taking a administrative expense off some of those grants.
Okay, so if we put Beaumont Health and $10,000, and then, so, yeah, I guess, yeah, we certainly can list these. And so pass through, how am I thinking about this? The pass-throughs are just in and out. So they're not helping us fund any of our entities necessarily, right? They're not helping us with commission for the arts donation or.
That, yeah, we would just have an equal amount going out, right, in the expenses. Then I was
Yeah.
gonna say, does that count against the 50,000 that Kitch talked about? My assumption would be yes.
It's a really good point. I'll talk to Kitch about that.
I'm almost certain it would.
I mean, I'm interested. The question is, who is the audience for this budget? And I think our budget to show our impact would have like two categories of income, or multiple income categories, but two categories of contribution expense. One is programs that we've raised money for, that we're giving money to, and then pass-through grants. I mean, because that's how the Community Foundation for Southeastern Michigan looks as big as it is, because it's all, managing other people's money.
Yeah, because you're talking about resources under management versus.
But I don't know that we have, I don't think we're gonna have resources under management. I think, to Shar's point, we really are, in a way, depending on how you think of it, we really are a pass-through, right? So we're bringing money in and then distributing grants. So I could almost see where you have, your revenue line items. So you'd have Robertson, Brothers, Beaumont Health. You might just have other and say, we're going to try to land another $10,000, right? And contributions between now and the end of June. And then I could see where you have like, maybe you have, and I think because the activity is so small, it is beneficial to have some of this detail, just because we're starting out. We have no idea, how do you get to these numbers? What are we going to spend? But I could see like administrative expenses, which is really what you have listed there, like a heading that says administrative expenses. And then, those are, kind of an indentation that shows what makes up those administrative expenses. And then I could see grants. I mean, so it's grants that are going out. That would be another expenditure. And you would have Beaumont Health, you would have, maybe you have other, and there's a dollar amount there. I would think it's probably like 10,000. If we're going to bring in 10,000 from someone else, we're probably going to distribute 10,000. So it's a budget, right? So it's just kind of an estimate. I could see it broken out in that fashion. So you'd have this revenue activity and then these expenditures going out. And I see our job is to raise money and then distribute grants like any other foundation.
Okay.
What do you think?
Yep, makes sense to me.
I agree.
Okay.
Okay, so I have experience from my positions as a board treasurer with QuickBooks, and certainly they have a robust budgeting tool that makes those indentations, and sets up chart of accounts for us. And certainly that's the system I've used, in the recent past for a few years. So doing this just on an Excel sheet, again, was just brainstorming. So maybe there is value in revisiting the conversation of getting QuickBooks.
I do think for a budget perspective, especially because we're so small, that we can go through and especially the first time around, I think there is value in having more detailed line items just to try to wrap our head around what we're spending, how we're coming up with some of these numbers. But I think you can do them. We can set the budget on Excel, and I do like. What I actually envision is like this forecast. Like we talked about maybe a 2 or 3 year forecast. I could see us doing it all on one page, right? So you have all of the line items on the left and then the years going across the top. And that way you can see that, in the first year, we're going to be doing this. The second year, this is going to kick in. Third year, this is going to kick in. So you kind of see this evolution of growth. And quite honestly, if you'd like, I'd be more than happy to sit down with Julie and maybe offline and maybe work through a 2 or 3 year forecast just based on, like, I can maybe help with the format a little bit. Julie has the knowledge about what we're likely going to spend, and then maybe bring it back to the board.
Sure, that would be helpful.
You are the treasurer, right?
I was kind of thinking that. So,
Okay, great.
so
We can talk about that offline.
and that might be more productive if we could just talk about it offline and then bring it back to the board for approval.
Okay, great.
Just a comment on it. I mean, it's helpful to know what our operational expenses are, so we know what we have to raise.
Yeah.
And I was also thinking about, just from a strategic perspective of our budget, but also our mission and vision. One of the things that we will work on is supporting those organizations, those legacy organizations, and with their fundraising components. And so I think when I was thinking about the revenue forecast of wanting to stay below 50,000, that obviously interplays with those organizations. So I'm not sure what happens after that. We have to find a CPA or something to do I'm making stuff up, but I'm just calling that out.
So that's a good point. So are there other organizations that are relying on us to act as a pass-through for them as far as receiving contributions and then making those distributions? Do we know of those dollar amounts if they are counting on it, or historically what those dollars amounts are? If so, we should factor that into the budget, fold that in.
Yeah, I was also even just looking at from a tactical level of the animal shelter reaches out. They're like, hey, we've got a $30,000 grant, and then the blanking Parks and Recreation reaches out and they have a 30,000 grant. We're like, well, we're sorry, that's over. You know what I mean? So, like, what does it take financially to do that? I guess, does that make sense?
I would imagine you just file a different form. You no longer file easy form. You file the standard 990.
Yeah, I'll have to talk to Kitch about that, because I remember that it was part of our IRS sign up, using the 1023 EZ to become a 501c3. And I think if we expand over $50,000 in one of those years, then we may have to do something different in terms of our 1023. So it's not even to the 990 yet.
There is a dollar amount that will trigger the more complex filing. Yes.
Okay. So I will I'll talk to Kitch and I'll bring that answer back to our next meeting. Okay, so back to the conversation about the animal shelter and money that they're taking in. And this might be different than what you're thinking about, Alex. I have my email signed up with the city's PayPal donation system. So when the treasurer gets a donation, my email is pinged also, and I can see who made the donation and to whom So in the case of all of the city entities, they all have their own PayPal link. And when that money comes in, right now it just goes to their 295 account. So it doesn't come into the Royal Oak Civic Foundation's account, and then it's spread from our account to theirs.
Yeah, I
So I
got
think
that. I meant more of they have a grant opportunity, and that's what we're
Got
here
it.
for. Like the Centennial Celebration is a perfect example. If $50,000 more with Beaumont Health decides to 5 times it, making that up. No, I'm not suggesting that, but that was just something I was thinking about tactically.
Okay. Okay, so I guess what I'm talking about is something separate, but it is a question that I have. Is that how we want it to be set up? Because since the animal shelter does its own fundraising in certain ways, does the revenue that they pull in, should it be funneled through the Royal Oak Civic Foundation to make our numbers look bigger in the future, and not in these first 3 years, or not?
Do they have their own 501c3? I don't think that group does.
They don't. So the money just comes in through the city's PayPal. The treasurer moves it to the restricted fund for which the donation was made. So it could be Nature Society, it could be animal shelter, it could be the fire department's smokehouse for kids. Right now they're all set up as in pre-ROCF time.
Right. So originally they connected through the Roots Foundation, so the fundraising came into their Roots account and then to their operational accounts, correct?
That I don't know, because it was before.
It was.
Time.
That's my understanding. So are we, if we're going to serve in that same function so that it's coming through an official entity, a 501c3, I think that makes sense, but I don't know if that's our claim to make, if that should be something that's opined by the finance director of the city.
Yeah, so if we were to take those into our account first and then distribute, I think it makes an additional step, an additional accounting step. Because instead of putting it right into the animal shelter, they put it into the Royal Oak Civic Foundation, then they have to pull it out of the Royal Oak Civic Foundation and put it in the animal shelter. I'm not sure how it's going to play out, but I just wanted to bring that up as, I noticed these donations coming in and they're going directly to the entity.
I think that's really up to the city to determine. It's likely that they're going to want to receive these donations directly. Where I think we could be helpful to them would be if they are applying for donations that have to be given directly to a 501c3. That's where I think we can be of assistance. And so we should be working with those departments to better understand potential grants that they may have coming in, that we can budget for those. Not critical, but.
Well, and I wonder if special event fundraising would also wind up being something that would be helpful as well, because there's a component of fair market value and donor stewardship over time too. So there might be specific fundraising project types that we are the better partner on. To your point, grants for sure, events possibly, and maybe even bequests or those types of things.
Yes.
I will say that I have over time thought that the foundation might have a role to play in technical assistance with those bodies within the city that do some of their own fundraising.
I would agree.
Well, when we do the budget, we can kind of have like an other, and it doesn't have any impact if it's equal amount of other revenue and other grants being distributed out, just to kind of give us a sense for that activity. And then we'll continue to build that relationship with the city so that they see us as a resource to them.
Right, so this was an exercise, and again, Julie, thank you for trying to figure out kind of what our annual exposure could be financially, what we need to make sure we're raising funds for. And as we make this a more finessed budget where we include categories and things like that, do we need to adopt this officially as organization, or is this more for our reference going forward?
I think we need to adopt the budget when it's ready. Obviously I don't think we're ready tonight, but I do think that it's a good idea for us to adopt a budget.
I
Make it
agree.
official.
So will we pop this down then to the parking lot on our agenda to come back to at a certain point? Does that sound good?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
anything?
and just a side note, some of my recollection from the MOU exercise, writing out ideas if we stay as a 295 and writing out ideas if we move to a 701. It seems to me, and Shar, maybe you can help with this, if we stay a 295, then the budget is really given to the city commission to approve. And if we go as a 701, then it is a budget that the trustees approve. Does that make sense?
I don't know. That's above my pay grade.
Okay. So let me ask, when you approve budgets, is the Nature Society included in your budget documents? Do you remember?
Yes, I think the roots funds do show up in the city commission budget, but don't quote me on that. I'd have to go look and think about it. Because the amounts are so small that detail doesn't even, appear in our documents.
But the Nature Society is not a 295. The Nature Society is a 701.
Right.
And that's why I just wondered if we could look to them as, the precedent set or not.
Okay.
But it's an additional thing to think about when we have this further 295 versus 701 discussion.
So question, have we added the whole budget subject to the parking lot? Or are Pete and Julie going to come back next month with a refinement?
Yeah, maybe parking lot's not a good, we'll bring it back next month with a refinement.
In December? Okay.
We can just put it on, I see your point, Shar. We'll put it on the agenda for next month. And I think regardless of while we're waiting for the answer as to what our destiny is, whether we're a 200 fund or a 700 fund, either way, I think this board, the foundation needs to set a budget, and either we are the final approvers or we pass it on to the city commission for their final approval as part of their budget process. Either way, we have to go through this exercise, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, if we can possibly avoid, if we can keep this at our level, not at the commission level, it will simplify our lives immensely, right, Pete?
Yes. I have confidence that we're a 700 fund, so.
I know.
Might be wrong, let's see.
All right, so we're going to pop this down for future discussion, and then is everyone okay with moving forward with our next two topics, annual meeting date discussion, and then setting our agenda for our next meeting?
Yes.
All right, so let's talk about our annual meeting date discussion. We had a brief discussion at our last meeting where we talked about how do we coordinate our election of officers, our next year's business plans, so it works in tandem with the commission cycle for approvals as well. Or was that necessary? So that's the precursor to this conversation. Thoughts and discussion.
Want me to give any context from like our bylaws or state law? I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah, I think if you have some context from our bylaws, that would be great,
Yeah.
just to get us started on what the requirements are.
Yeah, we kept it relatively light. Again, keyword being flexibility, I guess, for me today. But really with governance documents, as flexible as you can be. The couple of places that annual meeting appears in our bylaws are related to the member and then also to the selection of trustees, meaning us. The member, of course, being the city of Royal Oak. So the annual meeting, I'll just read it aloud, the language in section 3.4. An annual meeting of the member of the corporation shall be held at a time designated by the member for the purpose of electing trustees and transaction of such other business as may properly come before the meeting. Later, the related to the nomination and election of trustees, section 4.3, the incorporator of the corporations shall select the initial trustees as ratified and confirmed by the member who shall serve as the first annual meeting of the board. And then later, the last component, again, for the governance and nominating committee, which is section 7.3-4, -D and E. Prior to the annual meeting of the member, I'm going to paraphrase, the governance committee needs to meet, submit to recommended slate of candidates to the board of trustees, which is us, and then we ratify and send it to the member for review and or approval or rejection of the candidates. So the governance committee needs to meet at least annually before the annual meeting of the member. So sorry, is that all helpful? Do you want me to re-summarize? So we need to have an annual meeting of the member to reappoint us. I'm going to suggest reappoint us. Before that, the governance and nominating committee needs to meet and create a slate to give to the board of trustees to then give to the member. So just as far as staging goes, those are the three primary components. And not to opine because I am not a lawyer. However, there was an appeals court decision in June of last year that basically said if a nonprofit does not have their annual meeting, it does not deprive them of nonprofit status. So if anyone was concerned about that, again, I am not a lawyer and I'm not suggesting that we are in violation of our bylaws or anything like that either. So.
Okay.
So now we have that idea of what has to happen in sequence. Does it need to connect to city commission in terms of like the visioning timeframe that group has? Shar, was that in January, February, I think, when those groups typically meet annually to have those discussions? Any advice you have on how we should connect to the normal operations of the city commission and our presentation and those approvals that we will get from them? Would appreciate that.
Yeah, I was just sitting here asking myself, is it even important that we tie our timetable to the city commission? And I was just sort of trying to tease out what the relationship would be. And my sort of off the top of the head thinking is that doesn't really need to relate at all. I mean, at least in terms of trustee appointments. I mean, because the commission has two timetables. There's our fiscal year, June 30th, but committee members' appointments all expire in December of each year. So that activity takes place, 6 months outside the budget cycle and has no relationship to it. So perhaps we would want our board approval process or our trustee selection process to align with that calendar year timetable. Thoughts? I'm riffing here a bit.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't feel like we need to tie to any specific activity of the city commission other than the fact that when they are available to meet as the member before a city commission meeting or after, that is when we would tie it to. We were intentionally vague about when it needed to take place as well. Sorry, just to call out what was not included is not saying our bylaws do not say it has to be in January. It does not have to be for exactly this kind of conversation.
Shar, do you think they would appreciate having a similar task in December of appointing our slate, since they will be in that mode anyway? Or would they appreciate not having so much to do in one particular meeting?
I like the idea of tying it, of doing it in December. Because even though these are, we have not talked about how the city commission will vet foundation candidates. And I don't really want to put it into the same pool of talent as all of the other boards and commissions that we appoint. But making that happen at the same time makes sense. And then you've got a whole raft of appointments in January. So then that would mean taking to the commission our separate proposed slate of trustees. Well, just taking it to them in January, which means we'd want our governance committee to meet in what, October?
Sure. When did you say the commission makes their appointments to all of the different commissions? Was it in January?
In January. All of all of the committees, everybody's committee service term expires at the end of December. So in December, there's a whole flurry of new committee appointments and reappointments.
So something that I have on my mind, and maybe this is just more than what's needed, you would have a better pulse, was I always think it's good for committees or, foundations committees such as ourselves to once a year just give the commission an update.
Oh, yeah.
And so what if we did this? What if in December we went before, on an annual basis? In December, we made a very brief presentation to the commission that really talked about the previous year. It could have been our previous fiscal year or whatever, but right now we're just starting out, but essentially our previous fiscal year, what we've been doing, what we're working on, and the members, and ask, if we're recruiting new members or if we're asking for reappointment of the same members, we ask for that. And would they be willing to make a motion and appoint those members right then in December? We go our merry way. And in January, we as a foundation board have our first meeting. That's our annual meeting where now that we have a slate of members, we elect officers for the year. And we welcome any new members that may be starting in January. Would the commission be willing, do you think, to appoint us a slate of us in December separate from everyone else right at our presentation?
Okay, pin that thought, and then
Yeah.
let's ask the question: when should our annual meeting be?
I think our annual meeting should be after we know who's on the board, which in my mind would be if we go to the commission in December and we have any new board members approved, then our annual meeting could be in January where we welcome those new members and we elect officers. And that could be that time frame is more on a calendar year. We have a fiscal year, which is June, but that's okay. When you really think about it, I think we kind of think calendar year-ish anyway, when you think of our initiatives.
Well, yeah, and if our fiscal year ends June 30th and we spend a couple months finalizing our, clearing up our books, conducting an audit, we would have a solid financial report to make in December as well for the preceding fiscal year.
That's what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Anybody else?
I agree. I like it.
Yeah, I like it too.
Do you think they would appoint any members right then at that meeting after our presentation? Because you could see, back to your point, if we had a new member, we could have that new member come that we're bringing forward, have them introduce themselves. They could say a few words, and then they could appoint the slate that they need to appoint.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
maybe that's more than we need to do.
I wonder if there is information about the candidates that we can give to the commission 2 weeks before when we
Yep.
want them, to approve our slate. So they have some time to read backgrounds. We could build a survey, and that would be the vetting.
And I was gonna say that that probably aligns with the city commission's normal process of having the material in advance, if I recall from our previous, from things from Roots.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, you get your commission agenda. I mean, we get an early agenda on like Tuesday for the coming Monday. So no, we don't necessarily have a long window of time to consider things, but I mean, we as a foundation, I think, are going to be very thorough in putting together a list of our prospective trustees and their bios. And I don't imagine that the city commission is going to tinker with that much.
One of the things that I guess in the back of my mind is it's a little extra work, but I always find it goes a long way just to have that relationship with the commission so they know who we are, they know what we're doing. It's very transparent. I just think that in the long term goes a long way is my thought.
So when we say our annual meeting, isn't it the member that holds that meeting?
Yeah, so that's a good point. So organizationally, it's the members' annual meeting. It's the meeting of the membership is another way to think about it. However, I do think that, and this is where we started to confuse the language, it makes sense for us to have a public annual meeting where we provide that update. I was going to suggest that, at our update to the city commission and the meeting of the member, which would be the city of Royal Oak, we could then offer, down the hall, if anyone would like to hear more of our work or something, like come meet with us. So
Wait a minute.
does that answer your question, Shar, or did I take it too far?
No, I think that the annual meeting of the member should be the time when the member appoints new trustees. And then that annual meeting is either a portion of a city commission meeting, or it's a special meeting, which I'm not inclined to push on them. I think we would do it at a regular commission meeting, but it's almost like they would adjourn, or that the foundation meeting would be at 7 p.m. and a separate meeting for the commission. And but I think at the annual meeting, the annual meeting is a meeting of the city commission at which they would appoint trustees.
Yeah, I don't know if it has to be their annual meeting has to be a separate meeting just for us.
Yeah, I wasn't sure of that.
I kind of take that, maybe I'm wrong, that annually at a meeting, the city commission has a function to provide. I kind of read it that way, but maybe I'm wrong. It seems to me the spirit of this is that annually there are certain things that the member has to do, and annually there's certain things that we have to do, the foundation.
And for cataloging that is appointing new members, approving our budget, or do we decide to pull off of that?
Yeah, we don't know yet.
And
Yeah.
And then is it also some sort of impact reporting as well, so that we are providing a full report of what we've either accomplished or what we've accomplished in a year.
Right. And if we do wind up having the city commission approve our budgets, I would tie that in with the city's budgeting process.
Yes.
Okay. Got it.
So I guess the question we have, maybe this is more of a legal question, when it talks about an annual meeting, does it have to be a physical annual meeting where all of this happens, separate meeting, or does this all have to happen at least annually? I guess, you see the nuance?
Yeah. Personally, I like it all happening together. So it's kind of like we focus all of our administrative pieces all at one time, and we make that a business cycle for us. But I'm one voice on this.
You know, I'm inclined to agree outside of the budgeting process, which I've just mentioned.
Yeah. But the question is, does this have to be a separate meeting of the commission? I don't know the answer to that.
No, I think it can be a portion of a city commission meeting.
I agree. I think so too.
It's an agenda.
Meeting, yes.
So it's as simple as an agenda item on a typical meeting where they say, we're now going to convene what is the annual meeting for the Royal Oak Civic Foundation, go through the 1 or 2 points of business, and then we'll close this portion of the meeting and resume the city commission meeting. Is that how it plays out?
Yes, I mean, yeah, I'm sorry, Charter.
No, Mark, I was just going to ask you.
Oh, yes. I mean, there's 2 ways to do it. There's plenty of ways to skin this cat. The city commission could have their regular meeting first and then adjourn it and then convene the annual meeting as a member, or they could do that vice versa, or they could do it as part of their agenda. It makes it a little cleaner if they adjourn as the city commission and then convene again seconds later as the member.
Well, maybe. All right. Maybe we do it first.
I'm sorry.
Maybe we would have, the annual meeting for the Royal Oak Civic Foundation first, and they adjourn. We give a presentation at that. They appoint new members if needed. I kind of like that.
And that would make it clean. So, for instance, the city commission could start its membership meeting of the Civic Foundation at 6:30.
Mm-hmm.
Complete business at 7 or whatever time, and then immediately start the general business meeting for the city.
I suspect that's going to be our best path.
Yeah.
But I'm liking January for this.
I think the way the city commission cycles with its normal appointments being in January, yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah. Which doesn't mean we can't appoint trustees at other times of the year, right?
Correct.
Well, correct. And the annual meeting, the annual meeting requirement is really of the member, as I'm hearing it. So, we could really do that anytime, and we can approve our budget really at any time, I suppose.
And back to Alex's point earlier, I do like the idea of us having an annual meeting that is more of a public forum that helps us invite folks who could learn more about, ensure that they understand our impact as well, too. Just something to put out behind our decisions.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm respectful of everyone's time as well. We're 7 minutes over our typical calendar.
Yeah.
Do we want to catalog these concepts today and make our decision officially next meeting, or should we read through them quickly and make the motion and in today's meeting? What do you prefer?
So I could go either way. I would be open to sort of postponing, because there's just one slight nuance that could change things just a little bit, which is the determination of whether or not we are a 200 fund or a 700 fund, because that dictates who's approving our budget.
Okay.
And that, I don't think it's a big deal, but it would be nice to know that, I guess, before we walk down this path, but it's not critical.
Right. Mark, do you sense that we would have that response by our next meeting so that we could kind of tie them together?
I don't know. The sense was that Kitch basically told me that they would keep me updated. But I'll tell you, I'll just hound them again and contact them and see if they can give us a deadline in about 3 weeks.
Okay. And group, do you feel like this is a decision we need to make now, next month, or could potentially have it in January, February? Is it something that we consider critical business?
I don't think it would be a bad idea to have the city commission. I don't think it really it's that critical to know who's going to be have the funding authority, because the city commission still has to have a membership meeting of the foundation. Then once they have that meeting, we should have that information, whether or not they're making the budget decision or not. Or to cover all bases, I suppose both entities could make the budget decision. And then that way, either decision of Riemann Robson and Kitch would be covered.
So in this group, do we feel like we want to make this decision so that we're starting to click into city programs in early 2021, or do we want to take some extended time as we're still forming and make this decision so that we're really clicking in to the late 2021, early 2022 calendar of the city?
Well, when are we going to have our 2021 annual meeting?
The foundation annual meeting?
Yeah.
Are we required to have one, or is it the member?
Oh, you're
Member.
right. You're right. It's the member. So are we going to do that in January, or are we going to do it later in the year, but then by the following year, you know, schedule it in January?
One item I don't know, I wonder if Alex, you can see this someplace. When do your terms expire?
We left it at the next annual meeting.
Of which we can always determine.
Brilliant. Alex, you're brilliant. Okay.
So 5 years from now, we're going to decide when that is.
Then, yeah, I guess it's really up to us to make the decision. So Shar, what's your gut feeling about this?
Well, I like January, but can we get our act together to get it on? I'm sure we can get it onto an agenda in January, but can we get our presentation together by then? What are we going to, you know? And
Yeah,
that
can I
goes
share
on.
my screen real quick? And I'll just I just scoped out with the this is just the cycle process. And I apologize, I do have to leave in just a moment. But basically, based on what our bylaws say and the conversations that we were having, there's obviously some very specific inputs.
Can you make that a
should
little bit
revisit it?
bigger?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Better?
Yep.
Actually, let me do something else. No,
That's
it's not
pretty
gonna
good
do it.
right there, I think.
Forgive the formatting. So review board composition, get trustees input, cultivation list, which these are things that we already have, so we just would revisit it. Have a governance nominating meeting as required. Meet with potential candidates. Oh, I'm sorry, I went up to the top. Governance nominating committee meeting to pull all that together, any of the material that we need to meet with potential new candidates. Then meet with potential candidates. This could be the governance nominating committee, could be anyone, any trustee who has that relationship or is available. And approve the slate that's given. And obviously we could have a trustees meeting here. But then I would just say, as far as what's required, then the board of trustees meeting, approve the slate, meeting of a member at the city commission, and I said at 6:30, and then a public meeting right at some other later points, directly right after or later on, and then obviously orient new members. So for me, this is the overall process. This does not answer the date that we have, but from a process perspective, it would be easy for the governance and nominating committee meeting to take place, because it would just, I think it's just Julie and me, so it would be based on our schedule. But we would have to have that board of trustees meeting, which would then be December, before the January meeting of the city commission. So I'm just, as far as the timing goes, that's why I wanted to pull all this up. I don't know if this is helpful or unhelpful.
Yeah, that seems pretty tight because we don't know if anybody on our list is available at this point to start, you know, as a new trustee in late January. So maybe Shar's idea of, you know, we continue working on this and have the members' annual meeting at some point, you know, in the next four months or so, 4 or 5 months, and then for the following January, be ready to get on a schedule. So I really think that it's a little bit too short of time frame right now.
Yeah, and that's part of why I was scoping it out. I was thinking even February would give us more breathing room.
So I'm fine with that. The other option, I'm kind of throwing a wrench in the system here, but being that they're having a separate meeting to appoint us, I don't know how critical it really is to stick to this January timeframe where they appoint all the other boards, you know, the other members. Could we go to the city commission in May or June. And by then, so not only does it give us more time this year to look for other members, et cetera, but now we're giving a presentation and we could talk about, what we did the previous year, what we're, or what we've done so far, this current year, previous year. We could have a budget already approved for the next year. We could communicate all of that to the board, to the commission. That could work too. And now, everything's kind of happening all at once, where we kind of have this presentation to the board right after we've adopted our budget, right after we've recruited our potential members. And then we sort of welcome those new members at our July 1st board meeting, which starts our new fiscal year. That could work too.
So why don't we discuss at our next meeting?
All right.
Because I think we have really good ideas, and I think we need to map it out on paper, like all the pieces we have. Alex, thank you for doing. Did you make that grid right there as we were talking about it?
Yeah.
That's very helpful. And we can plug that in with specific dates. Does everyone agree? And again, I'm willing to stay later if anybody.
No, I think
Alex, I know you've got a hard stop though. I think.
I'm gonna drop off. Unless there's anything that I need to vote on.
All right.
Otherwise, I'll trust each of you. And it doesn't matter because they'll still have quorum without me.
Okay. We hate to see you go, but certainly understand that you've got an obligation. If everyone's okay, then why don't we go to our final agenda item and create our agenda for next meeting.
So the budget.
I've got budget, agreement with the logo designer, annual meeting / trustee recruitment. What else? Oh, vision statement.
We were going to pull up the grant process as well, although I wonder if we can append that or put that one back to January. But we can bring it up if we get to it. We'll finish it up at our next meeting.
Put it under new business, and if we get to it, great. And if not,
yeah, that sounds good.
So which one is that, Tom?
Let me look on the agenda here. It was
It's the big picture visioning and funding process for entities.
Okay, so wait, so what is big picture and how does it?
It was big picture visioning.
Vision statement.
Actually, I think it was just funding process for entities.
Okay. So big picture visioning, what is that?
I thought that was for part of the discussion about entities. So not the funding process, but there was a conversation about the needs in the community and then cataloging what was happening already in the community. That was all rolled together.
Right. So I think happening in the community and big picture visioning, why don't we keep them as a separate one, and let's talk more about the mechanics of our funding process. So we're not discussing what we're going to discuss, what we're going to fund, but more how we're going to do it. Let's focus our conversation on that next time.
I'm sorry, say that again, Tom.
Funding process for entities. We can just pull it up into new business, but just for context, know that we will discuss how we're going to fund things at that one, but not necessarily what we're going to fund.
Got it. Good.
What date is our next meeting? I don't have it on my calendar. The 16th?
Second Wednesday of December.
9th?
So 9th.
All right, anything else on the agenda that we needed to address? The finance of the contract is being handled offline with Ethan Martin.
Yep.
All right. Did you capture everything in there that you thought we needed as well too?
So do we, I added to the agenda the agreement with the student, but what will we need to do about that? Do we need that on the agenda?
I don't think so. I don't think
No.
it's an action point.
All right, got it.
So
So
we can
then,
take that.
I thought it was about the logo document that Mark was going to bring and you would review it and approve it.
logo licensing agreement.
Yes, I would prefer to have the, at least it's been our style at the city attorney's office, to have our side approve the agreement first and then give it to the other side for potential negotiations or just straight acceptance or denial.
All right, so I'll put that under the city attorney's report next month, leaving us with budget, annual meeting, and funding process for entities as continuing or new business.
And do we need vision statement development still in there?
Oh, sorry, yep.
Got it. All right. And annual meeting date discussion is there. Okay. Anything else for the good of the group? Thank you for your extra time today. We probably need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second,
All right. We'll do a roll call vote. Shar?
Yes.
yes.
I did that on purpose. Pete?
Commissioner, I'm a yes.
And I'm a yes too. Julie, thanks again for everything you do for us too.
Okay.
Yes,
thank you.
Julie, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you as well, Mark.
Have a good
Thanks,
meeting.
Mark.
Bye-bye, everyone.